You are looking at the Tides Foundation. Right now, that looks like a dot in the middle of a black screen. But what it covers is $500 million to $1 billion of donations to leftist organizations every year to influence both American culture and American organizations. Let's go inside what is called the cluster view of the Tides Foundation. Using fractal technology, we have taken a look at the Tides Foundation, and every dot you see is a dot that is an organization that receives money from Tides. Let's go see who some of them are. The Delta, the Florida Rising Together, the trustees of Columbia University, Special Service Group, Inc., Malaysia, Inc., the Wisconsin Alliance, Ron Brown School, the Lower East Side Girls Club. So all of these organizations, there are 2,500 in this particular view called the cluster view. But let's go inside the cluster view. Because remember, we are using advanced fractal technology. So we are able to drill in and look at this network. Here we see the West Virginia Citizens Action Education Group, the New York Hall of Science Group, the Cities Future Group, the Long Island Progressive Association, the NAACP Legal Foundation, the Arab Community Center. And what do we have in the middle? We have the Tides Foundation, and I'm going to move this around here so that you can see it. So as we scroll in here and we get deeper and deeper, we're actually getting to the other side of this cluster. Now we can see some of these other organizations: Cooperative for Assistance and Relief, Charity Navigator, the Rochester Community Foundation, Goodwill Industries of New York, the Astria Foundation, GLAD Foundation, Socrates Sculpture, the State Voices, the Media Alliance. So you can see there are 2,500 of these organizations. And as we scroll through them, we have the ability to touch any one of them, the Wisconsin Alliance for Excellence. And it shows us every one of these organizations. Now, the reason that the dots are different colors is because in each dot there are different amounts of funding. So the color and the size tells us how much funding they are receiving from the Tides Foundation. Here's one for the Ohio Organizing Campaign, Watts of Love, the Leadership Campaign, Housing Assistance Council. All of these are leftist organizations. By the thousands, this is 1 year of the money that Tides Foundation has given. Now, the Tides Foundation is not alone in the Tides family. You also have Tides Network, Tides Advocacy, and a number of other Tides groups who are doing the same thing. They are funding these types of organizations, and they themselves receive funding, as we've shown in previous videos, from the Chinese Progressive Association, which is a known communist organization. Let's go in a little bit deeper. So now what we're going to do is we're going to scroll away, and we're going to take a look at a different angle. So at a different angle, there are different organizations we can see. So now we have that particular angle. What we will do is we will drill in and see what we see here. Here we see the Kirkland Center and the Worldwide Indigenous Science Network, Raising the Bar, the Greater Houston Community Foundation, Faith in Indiana. So you can see virtually every state in America is represented here. And they are giving money to groups in every single state. Now let's go down here, and what we are looking at is only what is called the cluster view for the Tides Foundation. So money comes from the Tides Foundation, and it goes out to these entities. And we can see these entities. We can move this around and we can see who they are. Now the question that we have is, what do these entities do with the money they received from the Tides Foundation? You are now looking at what we call the nebula view. The nebula view is simply 2 layers out from the Tides Foundation. So the Tides Foundation received its money. That was called the cluster view. Now what we're looking at are what happened when the 2,500 companies to whom the Tides Foundation gave money forwarded money to another organization. Well, as you can see, we are now way beyond 2,500 organizations. We are looking here at about 37,000 organizations that are basically leftist organizations tied to the Tides Foundation that are 2 levels out from the cluster view. And if we look at these, and it's very hard to see this, but as you can see, every dot here is a different organization, and there are tens of thousands of these dots. And what you see here are the connection points. Now, these connection points are connected by funding. They are not connected by anything else. But we have the capability to show every connection. So we can show funding by person if there are common employees, if there are common directors. We can show funding by location if they're in the same building or even if they're nearby, by common phone numbers, etc. So now what you are seeing is this is the blow up of all of these thousands of organizations, and they fund other organizations who blow up into their own little constellations. So if we go down over here, we can see this particular group starts with an entity here, and we can actually drill in and see what that entity is. And then what we can see is every one of the entities that is funded by that. But we can see that they are all connected to the Tides Foundation. So what you are looking at right now is you are looking at the central nervous system for the left. This is how the left funds lawfare. They fund political campaigns. They take money and they fund it back and forth into state election organizations by the tens of thousands of organizations. Now, remember what we're looking at here. We're only looking at 1 year. We're only looking at one organization, the Tides Foundation, and how much money they gave to a subsequent organization, and then that organization gave money to another organization. So what we are looking at is only 1 year, one organization, 2 layers out. Now, what happens when we start looking at 4 layers out and 15 layers out? Well, you can't do that graphically. It is simply impossible. However, because we use fractal technology, we use that advanced artificial intelligence to do that. And what that means is it gives us the capability to go out to all of these and ask a question. A question might be, show me every organization in Wisconsin that received money 2 layers out from the Chinese Progressive Association. And it would show us just those particular organizations. But what we see here is a map. This is a map. It is a map of the constellation, and we call it the nebula view. It's only 2 layers out, and it shows us all of the different organizations, how they are connected. And in the center of this, it is so large that everything essentially turns white. Now, we have the ability, if we chose to do it, to actually fly into the center here and go see all of these organizations and see them graphically. But we're not going to do that because it makes more sense to just do that using queries and artificial intelligence. We have the ability to not only see the organization, we can see their funding, we can see who funded them, we can see what directors they have and how those directors are tied into other organizations. And we can see all of these organizations across every year for every entity that is in the IRS or any other database. Now, we've done the same thing for the Federal Election Commission database, where we have downloaded 680 million contributions. So every contribution for every political candidate on the federal side for every year since the FEC has existed, we have that information and we can cross search that and find people who are making contributions who are also tied to this particular network, which is tied to the Chinese Progressive Association through the Tides Foundation. So what you are looking at is 1 year, one organization, 2 levels out. Now what you are looking at is what's called the spreadsheet view. Now, as you could see a moment ago, when we were doing a review of these tens of thousands of connected organizations, it was impossible, even graphically, to make sense of all of it. So everything we do, we can do in a fashion that prints it out into a simple spreadsheet. That's what we're doing here. So what are we looking at? We're looking at the Tides Foundation. We're looking at 1 year, which is 2022. We are only looking at the money that the Tides Foundation gave 1 level out to other organizations. And you'll remember there's 2,495. You can see them down here in the lower left-hand corner. So we have 2,500 organizations who received money from the Tides Foundation in 2022. Now we can do every year, and we're showing 2022, but we can show right up until the current year, and we can see the address, etc. So we're going to go down and see who those organizations are. One Vote Counts, 1,000 Women, 350 New Hampshire, and we're going to go down this side, and here we can see how much money was given. We can see the name of the organization, but we can also see the states. What's interesting is that all of the states pretty much show up here: Pennsylvania, Florida, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Wisconsin, California, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Nevada, California, Illinois, New Mexico, Hawaii, the District of Columbia, Massachusetts, Michigan, Colorado, Georgia, New York, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Massachusetts, and we're still in the A's. Remember, we're at number 57 and 58 and 59. We still got 2,350 to go. So as you can see, as we scroll down here, virtually every state is receiving money from these organizations, and some of them are getting a lot of money: $4 million, $900,000, $1,500,000. Now, not every single one of these organizations is a get out the vote type of an organization, but many are, and a majority are. America Votes, America on Tech, Amazon Watch, American Constitution Society, American Family Voices. So you'll see many, many, many of these organizations are ones who show up. And what we do, and we won't do it in this particular video, is that we will actually go to their websites and we will show you that their website is all about doing some type of leftist work to impact elections in a state. And so when people say that there is money from Chinese organizations, and we're not picking on China, there's money from Russian and other organizations as well, that is coming into the United States and that is impacting the electoral process and is also impacting the cultural processes here in the United States. When we say that that is happening, well, we're not just saying it anymore. We're actually showing it to you. We're showing you the connections, and we're showing you not only where the money was spent, but we also can show you for every organization on here where all of their money came from. And a lot of their money comes from federal grants. A lot of their money comes from things like the Payroll Protection Program. A lot of their money comes from federal and state grants given to organizations that are tied to the Chinese Progressive Association. So we now have the ability for every attorney general in the United States to be able to have a window where with a few clicks, they can see every organization operating in their state. They can see every organization in their state tied to the Chinese Progressive Association or other such entities that is impacting something in their state.